Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first line of business is, where's our flag?
It's laying down.
Oh, wow, we can't have that. It's a pledge allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In executive session, the following votes were taken. We voted to approve the minutes of the July 14, 2026 minutes. We approved the homeschooling requests and the non-resident registration requests. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Minutes for July 14th, 2026. Bills were general fund bills, $589,000, $474.65. Grant fund bills, $44,482.39. And school food service funds, $47,366.76.
Any discussion?
Just that I be recused from the minutes from July 14th, Patty. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have our OPM update.
Mike?
Mike, are you good? Do you want to come up and
The mic-
Well, are you gonna give an update on the group portion of the?
I can do that now. I can also do that during, I was going to do it during my report, but I can pull it up now as part of paragraph. So we have been working collaboratively with our project manager, Peregrine, and Mike is here tonight and will specifically be speaking about an architect RFQ that we had. But before, I'm just going to briefly give an update in another project that they've been working very closely with us with, and that is the Hope Roof. And so that, and Rob, I'm sure, can also share. We just very simply, we had a building committee meeting last Thursday as well, where we discussed this. The Hope Roof is on tracks, in outstanding shape for school to be open with our schedule. So we are very excited for that work. With that said, I want to publicly share too, it is still a construction site and we want to honor that and keep everybody safe. So we ask that people still recognize that. We are excited for this project. It has not been an easy project. One specific barrier has been the weather. So the weather this summer, specifically the rain, has been a challenge. It is very difficult to do a $1.6 million roof project and have torrential downpours on a regular weekly basis. We did have some level of water damage in our library. I just want to publicly share, and again, we talked about this with the building committee last week, that continues to be assessed. We continue to work together and collaboratively with the contractor. We're grateful to have OPM to help us guide us through that. We do expect and know that that area will be back restored to at least, if probably better than the way it was before. So we are continue to do that work and know that it is difficult, again, when you have a roof and you have the roof project and then you have the rain, but we do feel lucky that other spaces have been spared, and it just is the library in terms of the areas that we need to consider and address. The other piece in terms of the Hope Roof project that I just want to mention is, because it's been an area that's been brought to my attention since I've been here, is the vestibule. So the vestibule has been an area that we want to, we hope to improve. The amount of work that was part of the scope for this RFP for this work is not enough to put this vestibule to a golden vestibule. In fact, we don't feel that if we do all the work that needs to be done in the vestibule, that we will even be back to a place. We can't guarantee that this space will be stellar. The other piece is that this is a vestibule that enters on a first floor while the main office is on the second floor. So no amount of work is fixing that. And that is a separate area that we would like to address in part of our stage 1 and stage 2 planning, as we work to have a new architect, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So we'll continue to update you. We're working with the building committee, working with the project leads on all of this, and in terms of addressing the vestibule. The other area that our OPM has helped us with is the Cato Field. I'll call them Cato Field improvements. So we know that we have the press box. We know that we wanted an RFP to take a look at that. That has been voted on by you all. That was posted. That project looks at putting out the RFP for the press box, and it also our plan in this project is also moving the concession stand, and there are some options for us in terms of location to do that. That again is just at a stage where we've posted the RFP for that, and we'll continue to update all with respect to those projects. So those are like the projects that we're working tightly with our OPM on. The third piece of this is the architect and the school building authority planning for stage 1 and stage 2. And so we've had a process in order to step through what is an RFQ. And tonight I'll have Mike give a little update about the process, quickly the process we step through, and then you'll have another action item on the agenda that we're going to ask you to consider an architect.
Yeah, so briefly, and this should all be in the OPM report that you have copies of, is in mid-June, the district posted a request for qualifications to solicit qualification proposals from firms that were interested in developing a new stage 1 and stage 2 for the district for a new 5-year capital plan. We had 9 respondents to the request for qualifications. After the 9 respondents submitted, a select committee of superintendent, Mr. Baxter and Mr. Medberry, met to discuss and review the 9 proposals and then individually score them. As a result of that scoring of the rubric, 2 firms were selected to advance to interview and reference checks. And the superintendent then brought in a larger group of stakeholders to participate in the interview process. And at the conclusion of the interview process, Studio Jade has been recommended for who the district to proceed with as stage 1, stage 2 architect, who is here with us this evening. This was brought before the building committee last week, who also voted to approve moving forward with Studio Jade.
You.
Any questions from school committee? Any questions from the community? Thank you for that. I would like to make a motion to move an item out of order. I would like to move item G1, which is discussion action vote approval of contract with Studio Jade for Ride Stage 1 and Stage 2 application, so that our guest, Phil from Studio Jade, could speak to us and then not have to stay the whole meeting unless he chose to. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll leave it to you right now.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Conte. I am an architect and president of Studio Jade. We are unique in that we are an architecture and engineering company. We have multiple disciplines in-house. We have about 40 people between 2 offices, one in Delaware and one in Rhode Island. I work out of the Rhode Island office. We have extensive experience helping districts get through the stage 1 and stage 2 process, and then potentially staying on board for stage 3 to execute the projects. One thing I think we are very skilled at is quickly reading the room and listening. I tell my staff we need to listen more and say less. You know about your facilities, you know where your strengths and weaknesses are. We will come in, assess them, report back to you, and work with you on the types of projects that you need, whether it's those that are focusing on warm, safe, and dry or some educational enhancements. I have this term, I call it responsible innovation. We want to be innovative, but we also know the importance of being, fiscally responsible in doing that. So we've assembled stage 1 and stage 2s for um, $100 million high school projects all the way down to the 5-year capital plans that districts need to continually submit for housing aid reimbursement. So in advance of this, we wanted to be prepared. So we proceeded at risk, getting things organized and assembled, working with Mike so that he could share that with you all so we could quickly move forward through our first deadline, which is September 15th. We are on schedule to do our physical assessments next week for a few days. We'll work with your district and you all for access. Your building committee and other members of the community have been very helpful in wanting to tell us what they know about the buildings, which is going to be huge. So we can hit the ground running and address some of those things that was mentioned earlier. I did have the opportunity of attending a school building committee meeting a couple months ago as well as the one last week. So I'm starting to get a flavor of what you're looking for, and I'm confident we're going to be able to meet and exceed your expectations. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. There must be a lot of tall people in Scituate.
Just like.
I know that I've spoke at length with Linda about what your organization offers, so I don't have any questions at this time. Does anyone else from the school committee? Anyone from the community? Do I have a motion to approve the contract with Studio Jade for the ride stage 1 and 2, stage 2 application?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you. And I appreciate the accommodation tonight, but next time there's really no need to move me up. I'm absolutely fine. Listen, I might take you up on tonight's offer, but I promise next time I'll stay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Welcome.
That brings us to the superintendent report.
If I could ask that we have the attachment 3D displayed, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the superintendent.
So as my backup is a report, the monthly report, and this is much more comprehensive than my goal is tonight, but there are just some elements I wanted to call out because this is the last meeting we're having before we open school. So it does feel heavy. In August, we opened school August 25th. So I'm going to just kind of use this as an opportunity to remind folks that we do open our doors for students August 25th. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So if we could scroll down, I'm on page 3. And so I also tonight and later in the evening, we'll be talking about evaluation goals. So if we scroll down to the bottom of this page, we have the strategic planning goals. So as part of this update is just a reminder for our goals as we set for the 26-27 school year in the areas of math, ELA, science, our learning environments. We continue to scroll down, college and career readiness, professional learning, and family and community engagement. And hopefully we'll see, like as we talk through this tonight, a through line. And if we scroll down right here, okay, Thank you. So there are a couple areas I just want us again to align and kind of see the bigger picture. Our focus, and maybe it's kind of fresh in an area I want to really call out because we worked together today as a leadership team. So we had our what we call advance. If we stay at the bottom of page 4, I wonder if there's a way I could control this. Is there? No. Is there a way I can control it? Is there a way that I can control the screen? No. Thank you. Thank you. Then I can kind of quickly. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Yeah, perfect. So as we're one thing I wanted to update and remind folks is we're welcoming students back are the areas that we're targeting and focusing for this school year. High quality teaching and learning. We have a focus on data, MTSS, and continuous improvement. Thirdly, professional learning, collaborative culture. And fourth, the systems and safety and student success. So as we're talking about our strategic plan, as we talk with budgets, just like we started when we developed our FY27 budget, we're starting to see this repetitive nature of a through line of targeted areas. So later in the evening, we'll talk about the goals that I have on the agenda, but I'd like to just what I wanted to share, my purpose for this is to show the through line between, we've already been talking about all these areas for a very long time as we developed a budget, and what we should see that is at a district level with the superintendent, but drilled right down to a school level with their school improvement plans and right into the classroom to help our students. And how do we know what goals to select? We know that by looking at our data. Another area of update tonight is our staffing update. And so as we are stepping through our hiring process, it felt like while I give you a staffing update, just to explain, we have an awful lot of positions posted. We did have some movement in a job fair that has a trickle down impact. And so now we have to post open positions as a result. We also had retirements and so that opens positions. So what we do first is we identify the need. We make sure that that position was in the budget. We review and develop job postings, job descriptions. We recruit. We post that through School Spring. We're screening applicants. We have interview committees involving our teachers, and I need to give a big shout out to parents, teachers, to folks that are sitting on those committees. This is a very large task, and it's a very important one. We're doing our reference checks. Then I am having all final candidates come to me for a quick meet and greet, sometimes with the principal, sometimes it's not. And then we do a letter of appointment, and that a letter of appointment sets the place of where, so folks are very clear about what their starting salary is, and really communicates to everybody in terms of payroll being aware, facilities being aware, technology being aware, principal being aware. So we kind of have this like through line of a hiring process that the leadership team we're working together to refine. I'm going to scroll through. These are the positions. Do you have a question? I'm sorry.
And this is a framework that you designed, correct?
Yes. Well, we've done it together. We've all done it together. So this is not like, I know we talk a lot about HR and we have HR needs. This is really before someone is even hired. So it's really important. It's a commitment. It's a partnership. I was just on the phone with the principal on my way back from our leadership, our administrative advance today. This is a marriage. We need the people we hire to be, very committed to our children and believe in what we all believe in. And so it's really important that we step through a really thoughtful recruitment process. And this will be refined. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a process that we're all working on this summer together. Since the spring and including the work we've been doing with the interdistrict collaborative with the Northwest 2.0, if you will, that created some situations for positions as well. So all encompassing, we are looking at about 40 positions. So those positions from the end of May today, I've posted the positions that are opened and if they were filled, just to share with the public. So this is backup on the school committee agenda tonight. So it shares the positions that are opening, where they are, if they've been filled, or what the status is for those positions. So just to kind of be very transparent with where we are with our positions as we become aware of needs. And then in terms of students, right? So that's staff. And then we have a student update. So enrollment, and this is as of last week, and this is not solid. I feel much more solid with the staffing because we're still learning about where students will be next year. We're still accepting our CTE students from other districts. But this is, I sat just like at 3:30 this afternoon with the principals for a half hour, digging into, really analyzing every single student that we see as an active student in the district, and that we are actively monitoring that. So this is a list by building and by grade level. And so this is an aggregate. Of course, I'm not going to put student names here, but we'll continue to revise and update this. This is like multiple times a day that we're gathering this, and it is a team effort as well. Also, to give a quick update, as part of that, of course, is our pre-K and kindergarten. Our kindergarten is getting there in terms of enrollment, and then our pre-K is the new piece. We have 2 classrooms, one here at Clayville. The new part of that is it's full day instead of half day, and then Hope Elementary will also have a full day pre-K classroom. And honestly, we could probably open 2 more and have the seats filled. So we have had an amazing amount of support and a lot of like community requests for that. And I'm excited that we can provide that. I also wanted to talk, it's on tonight's agenda, just quickly, I'm shifting to the work of a professional learning community. And we had a day today talking about what that means and why it's important. And I'm going to share like at a super simple level. It's, first of all, it's my passion, so I'm very selfish about it. If we talk about instruction, if we talk about teaching and learning, I am here today because like this is my thing, PLC. And what does that even mean? What it means is collectively, when we work together, we can accomplish great things for kids. And the research, what I'm excited about is the research shows it. Like this isn't because Linda thinks it's cool. This is because this is what we know based on research that is off the charts, which to me feels super silly. Like when we know something works, we should be leaning into it. So the principles, we spent a day today talking about how this will impact us across the district in lots of different ways, whether we are hiring, whether we're working with the student with an intervention, or we're deciding what kind of personalized instruction during a Spark summer program. We should be thinking about what it is all kids need to know and be able to do. How are we going to know if they have learned it? What are we going to do when they haven't? And what are we going to do when they already do know it? How are we going to extend their learning? So those 4 questions should be at the core of everything we do. You'll probably hear that 8 million more times from me, but I'm very excited that the principals really rolled their sleeves up. We started this work March 27th at our PD day, and we've just been continuing on this journey with this work. This feeds right into our MTSS work, which is helping not only to like provide curriculum for all students, which is what we call tier 1, but then when they are struggling, what does a tier 2 supplemental work look like? And what does tier 3 mean in terms of like, we have a reading interventionist or we have a math specialist? This is important for us because we are doing a lot of work around literacy plans and math plans. So I tried for this report just to pull in some graphics for you. So tier 1 is just every student having access. What it is we want every child to have access to for reading, for math, for science. What happens when Johnny has trouble reading? Well, he doesn't immediately shoot right off to like, we need intensive support. We provide what's called a targeted intervention. So we have, and maybe not every child needs the same level of support. It's kind of like I go to the doctor and I don't feel well. We don't give everybody the same response. We might say, oh, you need an antibiotic. Oh, you need a throat lavender. This is just a sore throat. Oh, you need a shot. There's different, you need a Band-Aid, you need stitches. The response we have for children needs to look different in terms of their learning as well. When you're reading, not everybody gets the same fix if we're struggling readers. And so MTSS helps us to really think about those specifics. When we think about the classroom, the next part is our instructional model. When we think about what it is we need to see when we walk in a classroom, this is what we call an instructional model. So it doesn't matter what classroom we walk in Scituate, we should see some level of these pieces. In other words, we should know what the children are learning, called learning targets. We should see some form of assessment. We should see the use of data. So these are the elements that we'll be strengthening throughout the school year. So we can have a uniform approach to what it looks like in the classroom. And just to be like transparent, our principals today, we worked on kind of modeling and practicing, so academic discourse, because our students should be experiencing when the person doing the talking is doing the learning. So we should be seeing our students doing the talking. And what does that look like when they're doing it to a point that can help them achieve more?
Do you participate in these walkthrough?
So a way to monitor this is to have a walkthrough, and the district had a walkthrough tool. We've 2.0'd it a little bit, so we've taken what's there and then built on it. Yes, it is. You can have different protocols and different approaches for different districts, but it is not evaluative. So it would not be uncommon for a superintendent, assistant superintendent to be on the walkthrough. What I do think is important is that colleagues and teachers support each other and and are able to like go in and out of each other's classroom, because we know that we can learn so much from each other. And when someone is super successful, we should be learning from them. So some of the best things I've seen are things we had pineapple days. In other words, like you have a pineapple as a symbol of hospitality. People would have a little paper pineapple over their door, so another teacher would know they were open for business that day. Come on in and see some of the cool things I'm doing. Maybe I'm really good at technology use, or I'm really good at formative assessment. I'm very good at using math manipulatives, and it might not feel comfortable to do that every day, but there might be certain days that we open our doors. And so you can have a more informal walkthrough where you learn from each other. I will say, like, the teachers here I've been through the schools in many classrooms on many days, if not almost all. People are very welcoming in their classrooms here, and that's so refreshing.
So the walkthroughs, I know previous administrations, this isn't new here, right?
No.
But like the 2.0 piece, and I know when it first started, before it started, nothing was happening, right? So there was not that piece. So I know it kind of started off administratively, not in a they weren't oversee, it was trying to enhance collaboration, but it was almost like part of their job was to work themselves out of a job, saying if it was the superintendent, or not that you wouldn't be welcome, but
Yeah.
so that the other educators were kind of embracing it on their own and share. Is that kind of the same shared goal?
Absolutely. Yeah, we should be able to, again, learn from each other, visit each other. It shouldn't be something like, oh, leadership's walking in. And it's the same idea, even in terms of like collaborate. We had a lot of conversation today about collaborative meetings. So if all the math teachers are meeting together, all the third grade teachers are meeting together, we shouldn't need a principal or a superintendent at every meeting facilitating. We should know we're always bringing student work or evidence or data to the table, and we're taking a look at it together, but we're professionals. We don't need to be facilitated.
Find that the educators are welcome to it. Like
It's felt that way. Yes.
yeah, and I like thinking of a silly example from work. So we have a pretty complex, not that I know much about it, but our operating system at work, how we do everything in, and I've been using it for a number of years, and still to this day, like I'm learning new things. When I learn something new, I can't wait to tell, and not because I think I'm an IT genius, but I'm like, oh my God, do you know you can do this? And it is 10 times like that type of thing.
Exactly. Exactly. When we know when we talk about things and share, we don't have a, there's a lot of, we know what much more about how the brain learns, even for adults. So because if you think technology really is the last 20 to 25 years, we understand and we know when we talk about things that we know that we're learning as adults and that then that can help students to learn. Yeah. There's a lot around collective efficacy and what that means for education. So when we're collective in our efficacy, that we're going to see big results. And the example you provide is exactly that. How do we know? How do we measure? I just want to like put it on the radar, looking at benchmark assessments. And it is required by law, for example, that multiple times a year, in addition to state testing, we would be doing some form of assessment for our students. You know, it's during budget season, it's actually started from budget season when we were talking about the budget, when the very first question I had when we talked about the budget was like at looking, so I'm looking at a principal and I said, how many students aren't reading at grade level? Like, because if we know that question, now we can build a budget around, like, that's got to be one of the most important things we're asking. And when you answer that question, it's not like, how do we feel? Do you feel like Johnny's reading or it's really having a very thoughtful diagnostic with fidelity. So we're using, this year we'll be using a tool called iReady Diagnostic for K through 5 for literacy and for math. And we'll be using Renaissance Star reading and math for grades 6 through 12. We've been using STAR. That's what we've been using at the secondary level. At the elementary level, we've used a couple different tools. We piloted iReady, and we piloted in the spring, and we also used it during Spark during the summer program, which was kind of cool because it was a mini school. And so it gave us some time to have some teachers play with it. You know, we had about 50 students in the summer program. So we had student feedback on it. So we'll be moving this year to iReady. And I just, again, want to be transparent. I think parents will enjoy it. It will give a very clear understanding about where their child is, the growth that we see. And then it kind of helps you to set clear benchmarks for what a typical growth would look like for a child at that grade, and then what we call stretch growth would look like. So I'll be sharing a little bit more about that in the future. And that's all part of our MTSS. I know I've mentioned it a little bit to you all, but I want to give an update about Spark. So Spark was our summer program. It started the beginning of July and it just ended last week. We had students at North Scituate Elementary School. They worked in small group. So they worked, as I talked about, like that tier 1, tier 2. If you imagine our Spark students really function at a tier 2, tier 3 the whole time. We're not teaching core curriculum. We do that during the 180 days. What we do with the students that came into the summer is we looked at the needs they had and targeted those. So every child had ELA and math, and every child had an opportunity to work in a science kit, a Lego science kit. So every day they had math, ELA, and worked in this science STEM Lego kit. When they are working in their math or their ELA, they're working in a targeted area. So if there are the different buckets for students. So for example, in math, you could have number sense, you could have geometry. So if a student has a lower area, when they take their iReady at the beginning, and if the area, they have 5 categories. If one of those categories, the lowest one, is the one that we really targeted and worked on. This outcome data here is a result of feed the results of the student, the progress reports. It's kind of a summative, if you will. And then it's also feedback that we receive from the teachers about the program. So, for example, teachers consistently reported that they saw measurable growth in academic skills and overall confidence of students. I was lucky to have like an anecdotal conversation with a couple of teachers last Thursday and Wednesday, where they shared that they saw this, like, first of all, the students owning their own excitement about their growth. We had students with 22-point gains, 14-point gains, 9-point gains, which is kind of unheard of, but it's a 4-week period that you really target that area. So it was exciting to see that growth. We know,
I just want to clarify, this isn't showing a 22, that's an example of a student.
correct.
Phenomenal. I don't want to
Yeah,
knock that, but we're not.
that's not an average.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know historically, we've been provided with, and this program just finished, correct? Like this
Yes.
is like hot off the presses type of
Yes.
thing. And I think a lot of it started when a lot of the stuff was grant funded, all the summer interventions. So the children that were part of Spark, those were targeted, those were, do we know participation numbers? Do we, will we
We had
get like,
50 students. Yep, I can give a kind of a summative.
and I think a lot of what we did, and I'm not saying we need to do this now, historically, we were looking at where we were investing, because previously they had kind of opened it to everybody.
We
through-
did. We
Nope.
did. We opened to everybody.
So, and how many of those students are students that truly require like need a structured intervention? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think those numbers are important too. I know we can't make anybody come. We can't do, I think it's, I mean, we
Yeah.
want to see growth with all of our students, but where is it between the kids who would most benefit? That was, and we honestly looked at, we did a lot of evaluations over the years of looking at, like, we had done stuff at every different level. What was the participation rate? What was the growth rate? What was, what was the feedback from everybody? So is that coming? Is that something that?
Yep, we can, we can take the specific reports out of, this is based on progress reports that were rolled up aggregate based on iReady results that teachers then also put a narrative to. So if you imagine, like, you're a mom, you got your results back from your student, but you also got the narrative that went with it. Like, oh, Linda grew 5 points, but she also had an increase in confidence. She was more engaged. We can absolutely give like a more traditional report. We did a beginning of the program assessment and we did an end. We did open it to everybody. Like, we opened to whoever wanted to come. With that said, everybody can grow, right? Like, even if you're at a 4th grade, but you're really reading at 5th grade, but we can still meet you where you are and have you grow to, a little beyond that. So all the students, we did send out extra invitations to students who are on plans. So we've tried to approach it that way, but we didn't say no to folks either. These are the areas that we worked on for students. So reading fluency, phonics and decoding, comprehension, vocab. For math, it was math fact fluency, addition and subtraction, geometry, measurement, problem solving. And then we know, like, the strengths of the program overall, because this was the first time we kind of approached it. We've done it where it was like a curriculum that most students received similar curriculum. So this was very targeted, small group by topic area. So the feedback from folks were that they really enjoyed the small group. They enjoyed the enrichment. So we balanced it with like a hands-on every day coupled with that math and ELA. They appreciated the strong communication, building the relationships with students. The leaders of the program were, and I'm very grateful, and I'd like to recognize them at the September meeting. It was 2 admin in training, 2 teachers that are administrators in training. And so we owe the work. They did an outstanding job supervising this and really running like a school this summer. I'm also grateful for the Hope Pond camp who partnered with us. So we could run in the morning this Spark program, and in the afternoon we had a bus and they could go off to camp for the afternoon. So that allowed parents to have students the whole day in a safe, fun place and environment, but have the academics in the morning and then go to the camp in the afternoon.
For a minute, and I think a lot of it's fabulous. Like you said, I think every kid can grow, and it's our job to meet, their potential. So and again, I'm not from the education world, and I appreciate all of your thorough explanation of what, like, the words that we hear over and over, and I understand the MTSS. So generally speaking, for a tier 2 intervention to take place during a traditional school year, this is just they would have to be a student in need. They would that or a student that was somehow not performing at baseline, or obviously like a tier 3 intervention would be somebody that these kiddos need some extra supports, right?
In most places, tier 1 is everybody.
Yep.
Tier 2 is handled at like a classroom level, maybe. So tier 1 is I'm a second grade teacher and Erica is a second grade teacher. I'm teaching my tier 1 and Erica is. When I get to tier 2, often what you see is like we'll collaborate and have maybe a win block, what you need block. So I would work with students who are struggling in a small group in fluency. Erica's going to work with a small group in comprehension, and we might switch our kids, and we might have some paras in that are working in a small group with some other students, and then a second kind of all hands on deck approaching. So tier 2 normally in most districts stays at the classroom level, but it is above and beyond the core. It's above and beyond tier 1. Tier 3 goes to an interventionist level. And then what happens if we're not going to that? Like, so we have a reading specialist. And we're doing things more frequent and more often, deeper, longer periods of time. If Johnny is still struggling, then that's when we may have a referral for special ed. So that's why MTSS and special ed are connected, because we should be doing the 6 to 8 weeks of intervention, first starting with like a classroom teacher, then moving into an intervention model, then moving to maybe a possible referral. We're working on strengthening the tier 2 here. So it's a little different in different buildings.
I'm gonna go right to the point because that's probably the best way to do it, right? Is again, and I'm speaking specifically to our summer programs. So I think it's a harsh reality that there are a finite number of dollars, right? Like we would love to get every kid to the highest level that they could be at any time. And I want feedback on this. Like, if there's 50 kids, if 48 of those kids that are there, and I'm not saying that's the case, are kids who are, proficient and above, then are we spending our dollars wisely?
Oh,
Does
yeah.
it make sense what I'm asking? And I don't mean it in any negative connotation whatsoever.
When our proficiency scores are stronger, then I'll feel better saying that we wouldn't need that tier 2 extra program. Yeah, we're not there. I mean, like I said, I was with the principals today, and, Mike shared, and I know this is like secondary, but he said, like, when I say like 30% proficient, it's not okay. Right? Like when we're hearing like 30, 40%
I want to
proficient.
liken it to this example. So, and I'll use my own family as an example. So I had kids in high school at the same time. I had one that was, he just got it very, he's all AP, this and that classes. And I had another one that didn't get it all the time, right? Like, and he was in a different level class. And again, we're going back some years, this is before. I would go to every kid's open house, and those of you who have done it, you go from school, like classroom to classroom. When I went to my kid that was in the AP classroom, I was surrounded by parents, right? Like it was a whole group of us that went place to place. When I went to the classrooms that weren't as advanced as some of those other ones, it was me and one other mother the whole time. And I think what I'm getting at is not that, are we using our dollars as best we certainly am not trying to.
I believe we are. I do understand what you're asking. I I do believe we are because we have kind of a targeted campaign for the students in need, right? So in terms of invitation, as much and leveraging grant dollars to pay for all of that. So we use grant dollars to pay for the Lego kits, for example. Like we leverage grant dollars to pay for students that have struggles or barriers in their families. And we're using, so for example, McKinney-Vento homeless dollars to pay. So we're trying, and different people have different kinds of barriers. And sometimes it doesn't always, we had a social emotional support and a social worker there. So sometimes it's maybe not the academic barriers because of a social emotional support. So I can assure you that the students that are targeted in there probably would not always be the students that you would see in like your AP when you were, I understand like,
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of those kids, it's just my point that sometimes, and it's a holistic thing. It's beyond a kid, especially at an elementary level a lot of times, right? Whether they can attend those programs or not.
yes. And I think the whole child is really what matters in MTSS because it's not just like, are you reading, are you counting, but emotionally, do you have the strategies to help? Because it is a different world today. And I believe we did a very good work around supporting that. I also think this was an opportunity, like I said, to look at a different tool in a small group. It was also listening to the teachers approach things, and we know small group work is a focus here. It was a focus before I started here, and we've continued that. And it gave people like this opportunity this summer to take a little bit of risk in an opportunity to really build a relationship with the student in a different way. So I'm excited for what I hear and the buzz and the wonderful work I saw, and I think it will keep growing. But the dollars that are utilized for this are a good chunk of grant too. I'd like that to continue for us in the future because that's what makes sense for these kinds of programs.
Linda, can I ask some too? This is the first year we've done this, correct?
In terms of this form of
program.
approach, yeah.
So I would think that, first of all, I believe we started not necessarily late, but people always arrange, we've all had young kids, arrange our summer programs for those who are working to have our students really, what are we going to do with them in the summer? So we're starting to apply for places like in March and April. So if parents now know that this is going to be a program, you may have more interest there. Secondly, the word will get out. It's a small community that these kids were happy with it. So other students may also join in because Johnny loved it. He did great. You know, maybe I'll go too.
Yes.
So I think as the word gets out, we may attract different ones, people in the community, and also because they will be aware that this program is going to be available.
Yeah, no.
So may change it up.
It is a level of a program too you can provide after school in a similar manner. Again, grant, it's easy to write grant because it's supplemental, so it doesn't kind of form a structural deficit, if you will. Yeah. There's just a couple other points. I'm sorry. We have been actively pursuing grants. Because it has been a kind of time, my time, Rob's time, I want to show this is the Title I is something that while something we have allocations for, we still have to write heavily for it. So this is for next school year. We've written and submitted, and we do have a level of like RIDE has to review and approve. So we have Title I, IDA-B, IDA preschool. Title III is a very small amount of money. That's for MLL students, and we do a consortium with other districts in this part of the state. Exactly. Yes. And then Learn 365 it is new for this coming year. We all have a round 5, and we just learned there's $25,000 that we would be eligible for. And that is exactly the kind of dollars that we utilize for that program. And then in addition, just to keep on your radar is a $500,000 biomedical science project Lead the Way Health Careers STEM, which is a K-12 grant, competitive, that we'll be updating you on soon. Again, federal, but passed through Rhode Island Department of Education.
And we fit the criteria.
We fit the
for
criteria.
that. We'll leave it
Yes.
at that.
Yes. Yep. So we're very excited for that. So that's a little over $1.3 million and growing every day. And we could add Perkins. There's other dollars that will be added to that. And then just to give you our special education work is going well with our collaborative. So we're working on this, continue work on the shared services. I just wanted to call to your attention, we are working on a shared elementary intensive support program and then also our high school transition programs. It's just, these are kinds of programs that we don't have enough students in our district alone, but when we work together, we can do great things. So we are working on building those pieces. And because the other alternative is paying tuition out to another. Yes, exactly. And then just a quick update, we are continuing our Alice safety planning. I didn't want folks to think that we forgot that. Actually, the leadership team is working tomorrow on that plan for what it looks like. Now we're on to students. We're on to our paraprofessionals. Our custodial staff will be trained August 20th. And then we also, our parents, our families, and our community. So that's coming up this fall. And we already talked about the capital projects. Thank you for that. And then we also have our facilities work taking place. So I've just kind of bulleted out. Barry does a nice monthly report, but I've just bulleted out the work that's going on in each building and have shared that with you. So thank you. And I'm sorry to take so long.
You.
Are there any more questions from the school committee? How about the community? Any questions for the superintendent? What would be a meeting without not asking a question?
Matthew Allen, 159 Hope Furnace Road. I just have a question about the iReady. Are the teachers really, I know we started with STAR. I went into an IEP meeting with STAR and they have numbers down the side for those that you don't like where your kid falls. And I didn't know anything about it until my advocate said something about those are the numbers that where your kid is actually. Are the teachers satisfied that the iReady is going to be more on point than Star was? Because I got mixed reviews on the Star being not as accurate as they hoped it would be.
Yeah, that's exactly why we've looked at another tool. I've used both in other districts. STAR is norm. Sorry, but STAR is norm reference. So quite simply, if we think back to like the good old fashioned bell-shaped curve, when we used to scale things when we were in school, we'd hear, oh, they scaled it. So it's a 100-point scale. That's how when you get results from STAR, you're getting it like, how did the child do across the rest of the nation this time? And that might be different in 12 months from now. It might be higher, lower. So COVID happened. And there was a slide. So all of a sudden, we used to say, I'm going to make up a number. A child, when a child scores a 200, they're at grade level. But then all of a sudden, it's like, oh no, they only have to score a 100 and they're at grade level. And now we're telling a parent, oh, we told you last year you had to be this, but now it's this. So that's a norm referenced assessment. iReady is a criterion referenced, which means the benchmark is the benchmark. So it doesn't change. So if when we're saying you score 200, that is the child scoring against a standard and not a child scoring against an average of the nation in that moment in time. So they're very different kind of assessment. I'm partial to criterion reference. I like standards-based reporting out for parents. It feels very clear and it's easy to see growth. So I'm happy to talk about that in the future. Don't know how I could. I love like thoughtful assessment literacy, but it becomes a waste for us too to be administering as I don't like testing children. I don't like wasting their time, but we at some point like just like we want to know how much we weigh, we got to stand on a scale. And
Yep.
sometimes we want to know if the child's reading at grade level, we need to do a thoughtful measure with fidelity. So that's what I'm asking us to do a couple times a year and have a thoughtful way. And that was what go back to that. here's budget season, how many kids aren't reading at grade level? If a principal can't answer that, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And it'll be a winter spring thing like Star was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Fall, winter, spring. It was fun to see it. I didn't expect to see it. The kids in Spark saying, I grew 7 points. Do you know that is the best? They should be celebrating their learning.
Yeah, because when I went into the IEP meeting, they were like, "Oh, this is where he falls." Now I'm like, "Yeah, but what about the other 22 kids in his classroom? Where does he fall with them?" Because minus a couple new kids, they all learned from the same teacher to the same grade. So where does he fall on that? And surprisingly, it was all over the place. With him being higher or lower, and I was wondering why there was other kids not saying mine is should be lower. I'm glad he's higher, but he has a disability versus some kids that don't. I was surprised where he fell, so I just want to know if it was more accurate.
Things that I had to
Thank
get
you.
used to, and Linda can explain all of this on a much deeper level than I can. Our understanding is, and I think assessments, curriculum, there was a point, I've been around for a while, we've changed some things. And there's a part where they were going through curriculums too quickly. You had to implement it with fidelity. But even there are times, and disagree with me if I'm wrong, even when implemented with fidelity, with curriculum or an assessment that is done properly, sometimes there is better. Do you know what I mean? And just because we have something doesn't mean that's what the best is
He
for.
excels in math.
Yeah, but again, he'll continue to excel.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If it's not working, we're not going to use it. It's a waste. You know what I mean? We're not moving in the right direction.
Well, and again, when you look at the STAR report that comes out that the teachers were handing you, they give you a bar that looks like this, and yellow is in trouble and blue, and then the green is where you are and like where you should be. They give you a number. So as long as you're in the green and not so close to the other colors, then you're good. But they were finding out that after the test, push come to shove, there was a lot more flexing than what the numbers were showing, is what the teachers have been telling me. Like,
Spot on. And it was a source of a great deal of frustration. And that was exactly when I came in.
yeah.
And we worked with the company. We did professional development with the company. We spent the holiday break with the company trying to figure out how to, because the data is not useful for teachers, then they can't adjust anything for the student.
Like kind of what I just said, and I didn't realize that. So we had STAR in place. You guys did everything you could to try and make STAR serve our purposes. I didn't even know that back. But it wasn't doing it. So hence the jump to, and hopefully it'll be
a lot of, I know at least that hope, a lot of the interventionists were trying to pinpoint things and try to not negotiate, but like this kid is doing this, but isn't really, the numbers weren't really matching from what what they were saying. Like, yeah, they're reading here, but come to, you can test really good on a day and guess multiple choices and however I never saw the test, but, and score high, but not actually, my son can read really well, but that doesn't mean he's comprehending what he's actually reading is what the issue.
Exactly. It can appear because it's kind of like we, again, scaled the score. So if back in the day, it used to be like everybody failed, but it's all right. We did a bell-shaped curve. So you did the best of the worst. You got a 50, but everybody else got a 20. So you actually have an A. And but it doesn't mean you're reading.
Linda, are you the one that threw the curve in school? There'd always be that kid that got 127.
I'm not a fan of test taking. I'm clearly not good on the spot. So I'm a planner. So yeah, no, but thank you for bringing that up. And maybe I shouldn't say this, don't forget, these are assessments that we not only use at the student level, but our teachers use them for their SLO goals and their evaluation. This is high stakes if you're being evaluated. And we want to know that yes, for our absolute number one students, that's all that matters, but the teachers matter, of course, too.
One more time, because not everybody knows all your adjectives and what's the word? It's not adjective. Yeah, but that's their evaluations are tied to it. Their student learning objectives. So our teachers, for not only just because they want their kids to grow and learn, that everybody has a stake in the game on this. And again, and again, return at some point to your evaluation and your objectives and your goals. Like if if the kids aren't achieving, if we're not capturing their achievement.
Is there anyone at home that has a question? I can't see if there are any hands raised.
Three participants, no hand raised. I found it.
All right, so looks like we can, if there's no other questions from the community, we can move on to the finance report.
No. I only have 2 pages. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. So this evening in our fiscal report, first of all, if you look at the attached report, we're projecting that we will, in fiscal 26, will exceed, our revenue budget our revenue will pardon me, our fiscal 26 revenue will exceed budget by about almost $20,000. That's primarily due to favorable variance with regard to out-of-district tuitions. So if you scroll down in that report, you'll notice, and again, this report has all of our, oh, it's got up on the screen, it's great. So this has all of our expenses as we have either encumbered them or have paid them through June 30th, or now, as the fiscal end of the year, June 30th, but through the end of July. And pardon me, if we scroll down to the last page, our expenditures, our estimated expenditures are below budget by about $596,000. So I'm sorry, by about $476,000. So with the favorable variance revenue coming in above budget, we're according to this right now, we are estimating at the end of last July about $600,000 surplus. I know that we have not booked all of our expenses. We'll still have some expenses coming in. So I would expect this when we're done to be slightly below $500,000 would be my estimate right now. As we move through the end of August, we should have a firm number that we should be prepared. We're on track to provide our first preliminary trial balance report to the auditor by like mid-September. So we're on track to be on time with starting our field work and our pardon me, for our fiscal 26 audit. So you should expect that we will come back to you after, probably October or November sometime, once fiscal 26 is closed and we understand and we have a firm estimate of where we'll be closing fiscal 26 to provide a recommendation for a revised budget. I'm happy to, at the end, I'll take any questions on that. Major activities of this period. So we get into the lunch program. I think it's important to note to you and to community members that the Rhode Island General Legislature enabled a law that capped the fee for electronic payments from our current 3.5% to 2%. That caused the vendor that almost everybody used for the software to turn off electronic payments because it's the law, the rate is lower than their fee. I've reached out to them. We're not the only district in this position. And they first are working with RIDE and with the state to come up with a solution. And we may be back to the school committee if there's any adjustments that we need to make on a local level. But right now it's with the state. The software company is dealing with RIDE, and I'll report back that's as of.
Not foresee that. Like I like there's a certain cost of doing business, like every merchant, like, how do you ask a?
Angle.
How about if I talk like this? Good. I won't look at that. I just,
Don't look at
Yeah.
oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, get me a mic to tap on me. I just, it's idiotic. Like, but, and it's a burden to, like, that's how most people make their payments. And how can you expect these vendors to, it costs them money? And so the state passed this legislation, but offered no.
Yes. Exactly. They didn't fund it. So 3.5% is a pretty standard fee for credit card payments. It is pretty typical. So if the state doesn't make an adjustment, that might be that 1.5%, which is about 4.5 cents a meal. Pardon me, might end up being a charge that's assumed by the district. It basically would be an unfunded mandate from the state. So it's still early days. We're waiting to see how it plays out. And I'm always optimistic.
I'm gonna try this now. Do you have any idea, just ballpark, if that were the case and we had to make up the 1.5, do you have any idea what that could possibly cost the district? Like on a yearly basis?
Yeah, I did the math. Actually, I'll do it again. It's about 50,000 meals. I'll do it one more time. It's about 50,000. 1, 2, 3 times 0.045 divided by. Yeah, it'd be about a couple $1,000s. It's not.
1,000.
No.
Oh, okay.
50,000 meals.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
doing,
Right.
I was doing it and I have to.
Yeah, did everything, all right, yeah.
I figured it out and I didn't write it down on my report. So it's not ideal. It's a few, it is several $1,000s, but it's not, you know, I'm a little sympathetic to larger districts that don't have that, but, so anyways, it's again, still early days. They're working it out at the state level and we'll see what happens.
Soon. So we.
Yes, so I was pretty firm with with our contact. So we're dealing not with like our regional person, but we're dealing with the corporate payments person at the software company. And I was pretty emphatic that our priority is to uh eliminate any disruption to our parents, to our families, and that we need it up and running. So we should be seeing something. They understand that, and they're they're at a like I said, at the worst case, we would turn it back on at the 3.5% and then figure something out. Um so we're not. I I would actually like, because normally we would turn it on in a couple of weeks before school starts because people start loading on and doing this. So that's our expectation. We're still trying to work it out. There are a lot of moving parts in it. I'm not entirely in control of the whole thing. So yes, yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. So I just as a final update for the fiscal 25 audit, and then I'll drop it from my report. The fiscal 25 audit report was complete. It's complete for the whole town and the school department. That we're just awaiting the delivery of the printed hard copy reports. And I wanted to emphasize that we will have two findings on the report as it regards our single audit on the grants, which is how we calculate and the procedure to how we calculate our maintenance of effort for special education, how we did that in 25. And then also we're supposed to have in our procurement policy a a clause on suspension and debarment. I've already updated the documents and we just need to, work it through. So the corrections have already been made, but they were incurred in 25 and they shouldn't be on our report in 26 because they've been corrected. So that's All right, that's that. So then, fiscal 26, I already mentioned our audit. We're in the process of closing fiscal 26 and we're on time, and I'm very excited because the team, it's a small team, but they're really doing and have done great things. We've changed I guess this is boring, but we've changed the way our the way we record our due from the town to better align with the town's general ledger. That's streamlined the way we can reconcile. So it basically means we can do things quicker and easier. It's more clear, and then that gets us to the finish line faster. So we're in good shape there. Regarding procurement and other projects, the RFP for the press box has been released. We've had about 2 dozen vendors pull down the documents. So, if that's any indication of response, I think we'll have a handful of responses. So I think that's very good. And that bid is scheduled to close at the end of this month, and we should have a recommendation to you at the next school committee meeting. Special education services, that's an important one. The district spent significant funds. It was outside of transportation in our lunch program. We spent uh, that was like our third largest single um, budget item, and we hadn't really done a competitive procurement in the past, so we went out and we've done that, but we structured it in such a way that we will have like a toolbox or a like a phone book of vendors. So we're not going out to bid for one vendor. We're going out to bid to build a portfolio of vendor partners that can fill various needs. And so when we're done, we should have, like I said, like a phone book that that our staff can pick from, say, hey, I need this service or that service or whatever. So I'm excited about that. And that's roughly on the same timeline as the press box. We've already talked about the stage one, stage two architect firm, Studio Jade. Transportation, let me just give you a little update on the transportation. So if we talk about the fleet, technology, students, and whatnot, we've already begun, or the transportation contractor has begun receiving buses. They've been spending time with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and things are going pretty smoothly. I just met with them today. So we've got the buses, they've got pardon me, the drivers have almost all been hired. They've got enough bus drivers signed that we're ready to start the year. And again, we always like to have extras. So they've got some training. They've already held 2 trainings, and they've got additional training to do, for some of the newer drivers. Uh, for the most part, all of our drivers that were with First Student have moved to Zoom. Several of the other staff members who were with First Student have also moved to Zoom. It's very exciting. They seem to be a much more, let's say, employee-friendly vendor than our past transportation contractor. So we're very excited about that. We went through our standard operating procedures today. We still have a little bit more progress to go, but that talks about in terms of how early do the buses show up, when do they leave, that sort of thing. And so we're using this opportunity to reboot. Because like in the past, we had like one elementary school where the buses arrive like catch can, some before, a little bit after, or the bell, or in the morning, we had a bus that had a tough time getting to the school on time. And that affects the students on the bus. So we're working on tackling that out of the gate. So this is a good opportunity. The technology is up and running today. I say up and running. We have the routes have yet to be completed and published. So we are getting some, it's a little bit later than I would have liked, because we're getting some questions from parents because they're already starting to think about how do I get my kid to school? And, do I need to arrange for daycare and that sort of thing? So that's coming a little bit later because our student information system ties to their software. And that's been a little bumpy, but it'll be done in time. So it'll be done. And matter of fact, I was just had access to the portal today. So that was released, and I could go through and I could see students in the in by school and whatnot. It's also very exciting. Again, we're meeting with Johnston, and we're already looking at collecting our data for how do we achieve savings by again working together. So, like last year, if we had a bus going to, say, Meeting Street or something like that, we would have a bus and they would have a bus. And so we paid for two buses. And so now we're working on how do we put all of this in a pool, and we have one bus that goes and we pick up our students and their students, and we can split the cost of that bus. So that should also greatly reduce not only our our, you know, our core transportation expense, but also minimize our statewide, because we'll have like a mini statewide arrangement, by unifying our transportation with Johnston. So we're very excited about that. And the yard is pretty much set up. They've hired the GM. They've hired most of the staff at the yard. They're getting ready to stripe the lot. They've got some really talented people there. So we're in good shape with that. And then we've already spoken about the Hope Roof, which would be the last item on that section. Believe it or not, we're looking at the fiscal 27 budget preparation. So we've loaded the fiscal 27 budget. The staff, the administrators have been phenomenal because uh, best practices is that you start to load and open up purchase orders for your annual requirements, blanket purchase orders, annual software licenses and stuff like that. And that hadn't been past practice. And so in general, so the administrators have been working together. We've been processing those. It's been coming right along. So next, like if I ran that now, it's kind of boring, but in at the next school committee report, you'll see some significant activity there, and that helps for not only lining up our projection for next year, but believe it or not, that's really the first step for building our fiscal 28 budget. So we're already starting to think about what is our fiscal 28 budget like. We're again continuing the work that we've been doing about consolidating what our software purchases are, who's ordering what, so that we know and kind of get our arms around things, things like that, like big baskets, like software and services and whatnot. So we're already kind of there. And then the finance office action plan, again, boring for you guys, but for me, it's kind of exciting. We're really trying to get our get up to speed with our regular monthly reconciliation. And a matter of fact, I was just talking to the staff today. We've just finished July, so we're beginning our reconciliation of July. And that's, again, we weren't there before and we are now, and I'm really, really happy with that. We've begun the process of implementing position control. We've kind of built the structure of the database where we need it to be. And that part has been paused as we've posted for this new position, the HR assistant. We'll take that and kind of run with it. But we have begun building electronic employee files for active employees. We've got content manager, which we were paying for before, but weren't using. So that's on board. We put contracts and appointment letters and all sorts of stuff in there, and it's indexed as opposed to just throwing it like in a shared drive or throwing it in a file. So so we're starting to put the tools in place to automate the process that Superintendent Savastano, mentioned earlier in her report, and then automate that process after the appointment letter through the employee life cycle. We've provided additional training to the leadership team on purchasing regulations, and we're going to do our next training tomorrow. Yeah, I have August 4th. It's August 5th. So we've been working on that, and that continues to be an important element, and the administrators are really I don't want to say excited about it, but they are open and energetic about. They say, okay, so Linda's saying that they're excited. So they are on board, and that just it elevates our compliance, but it also we're starting to streamline. So that means we're spending less time on procurement and more time on, actually doing what needs to be done in the buildings for the kids. So that's where we're getting there. We've streamlined our grant accounting. We've organized our filing, got up to date in Excel grants. So we're in good shape with that. We requested our reimbursements for fiscal 26, and that cash has already started to hit the town hall. So that's a good thing. And I already talked about HR and personnel, so thank you very much. That's it. We've got some recommended policy revisions that I'm hoping to bring at whenever the next policy subcommittee meeting is. So thank you very much.
Certainly sounds like a lot of the work that you're doing decreases human error.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's exactly what we are trying to eliminate. We've done two things. One is by automating and that kind of standardizes our data entry. The other thing that we've done is implemented controls. So like I can't do a budget transfer or a journal entry without my assistant would approve it. And really we've set it up approval chains and whatnot. So somebody else does it and I review it for accuracy and then go back. And that's really we when early on in this process, we were going through a lot of cycles on transactions, just doing things. We do it nice because we do it twice. And now we've really I say go slow to go fast. We've really eliminated that, and we've got a good pace, and we're not making mistakes like we were before.
Any questions from the school committee? Community?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I would like to, before we go on to public comment, out of the interest of allowing our attorney to go to something else, I'd like to request to take item G3 out of order. I have a motion to take item G3, which is discussion action vote, superintendent's amended contract out of order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I do want to apologize. At the last meeting, we tried to amend the superintendent's contract to bring her vacation days from 20 to 25. Everyone else in the office that reports to her has 25 days vacation. It slipped through the cracks with us that she only gets 20. We thought she should at least get what everyone else gets. And I was told at that meeting that it was an Open Meetings Act violation. So I said, oh, okay, so we'll wait till this month. And of course, what that did, it added more work for Patty. It adds our superintendent without a contract, more time and effort. It's on the agenda. We're still talking about it. So I did ask our attorney just to explain briefly but succinctly to the community and the school committee, what is our authority rights in an agenda item that says the amended contract? What could we do right now in any way? Oh, I think you need to go to the mic, John. I'm sorry. Just so the community can hear it as well.
This, can you hear me? Okay. The school committee, when an item's on the agenda, any member of the school committee can make, first of all, somebody has to make a motion. And the motion has to be seconded. But once the motion is seconded and the floor is open to discussion, anybody on the school committee can offer an amendment, which again has to be moved and seconded.
Whether it's in writing prior to or not.
There is no requirement in the Open Meetings Act that it has to be in writing, that it has to be given out ahead of time.
Following.
Sure.
It was, and I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I do apologize. It was on the agenda. You're not saying.
It was on the agenda?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. We can't just start making stuff as we go, but it said it's the same verbiage that is on what's on tonight. Okay, I
Correct.
just want to clarify that.
Correct.
Thank you.
The Attorney General has previously ruled in a case coming out of Charahoe that people do not have to give their amendments ahead of time. People do not have to post them on the agenda. The whole idea of having this meeting is for you in front of the public to, if you have an idea to improve an item on the agenda, to make an amendment. And if you are,
Correct.
correct. Correct. And the whole idea is so that that process takes place in front of the public, not through the shuffling of paper prior to the meeting. So the school committee actually could have proceeded at the last meeting. I would encourage you, however which way you wish to amend this, approve it, that you take it up tonight.
Thank you. And I do apologize because I felt caught off guard and I thought, well, I didn't have the
Better safe
attorney.
than sorry. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So do I have a motion to amend the superintendent's contract to increase vacation days from 20 to 25?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to public comment. Going once. Thank you. That brings us to item G2, discussion action vote authorizing superintendent to execute contract with Constellation Energy. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The not unique to our school department. Typically for all school departments, we have multi-year power purchase agreements that lock in our electricity rates. The the superintendent is authorized to sign a contract if the item has been, budgeted and it's for 1 year. But power purchase agreements span multiple years, and so they need to go to the school committee. However, the way the energy market works is we get spot pricing for that day and it expires at 5 o'clock. So it would never, the logistics don't work. So what we're asking, and this is pretty typical should be pretty typical operations in a school department. The administration requests that you authorize the superintendent that she can enter into the multi-year pricing agreement with the power company. And in this case, it's Constellation. The town of Scituate has an agreement with a company called Power Options that was competitively selected through the League of Cities and Towns. And Power Options is partnered with Constellation, who provides the electrons, if you will. So Constellation provides us spot pricing for various terms like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, and a couple of other different variables. That pricing changes day to day. So when we think we've got a good lull, in the pricing, we would like the superintendent to be able to lock in those prices. So that's what we're asking for.
Any questions for Rob? Do I have a motion to authorize superintendent to execute a multi-year contract with Constellation Energy?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That brings us to superintendent goals. In the past, we've not done this in open session, but Superintendent Savastano would like to do this in open session. So everybody can see and be a participant or observe us discuss her goals for the year. As you know, it is a requirement for Title 16. And to no one's surprise, she has provided a very comprehensive document that takes us through the process and the policy that we have in place for superintendent goals. Do you want this up on the screen? Do you want your own mouse?
Mhm.
Brendan, can you get the mouse for us?
And could we display 3G4? Thank you.
Number 4. I think it's 3G.
In the title, it says draft soup. I think it's draft soup goals. It does. Thank you. And then would I be able to use the mouse? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan.
So really and so I'm new here. I'll start with saying like I'm going to speak about a process that I'm new to. So this is my understanding and interpretation, and I may be wrong. So, because not only I think is this about my goals, but also they're developed in the context of a policy and a process. So I'm going to try to put my best teacher hat on, because otherwise I don't know that they'll make sense. The other thing is really tonight is about like, I'm just sharing with you draft goals and the purpose for folks to like be able to provide feedback. But my disclaimer is also that I mentioned earlier, we have strategic planning goals that we're working towards. We had budget goals that are aligned and all supportive of that. We have areas of focus for the school year. And so this all just supports that. This is really nothing new. But first, I don't know that it will make any sense if we don't talk about the evaluation tool. So I'm telling the school committee about the tool they're probably well aware of, but just for the general public to understand, there is a Scituate School Department Superintendent Evaluation Tool. So it has a process, it has a rubric, and then what I'm sharing tonight are my goals, draft goals, and then eventually we would have materials that would back that up.
I just want to ask, this is on our website, correct? The evaluation
It is.
process, I believe it is.
It is.
It's been on the website for years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So the process and the rubric is available. It is also strongly aligned to Massachusetts Department of Education superintendent evaluation process. So I'm not going to lie, I dug deep into that because I wanted to make sure I was not making any assumptions. And so that gave me a little bit more detail around it. I did not watch the videos, but
They're helpful for
yeah.
the community.
Yeah. Yeah. If you really like want to understand the process of it, it is there. And and I'll explain a little more about that in a minute. I just want to again lean in. I am about cohesiveness and knowing that we are thin, and the way we can be successful is to make sure we have strong alignment and cohesiveness. So there's a level of a district vision and a plan with goals. My goals should then be woven in there that then also align with our school improvement plans that ultimately we're aligned to student outcomes. The superintendent's goals, these 3 buckets, when you're in the Massachusetts model, they're very specific that you have at least 1 professional practice goal, 1 student learning goal, and 2 to 4 district improvement goals. So they have these like kinds of goals. They also, and we also strongly align with these 4 standards. So these standards area, instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Underneath those 4 areas are what we call indicators. So the indicators And these are not all of them, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. So for example, if I look, instructional leadership has an indicator of curriculum, it has instruction, assessment. So I'm going vertical. This screenshot is actually from Massachusetts because they give you not just the indicator, but they give you examples of evidence that you could produce. And I am, former math teacher. I like my examples. And so it was good for me to see, once I kind of saw some examples, then it was easier to think about what the goal would look like and how to support that. Yes. So this is a summative view because really what happens is there is a goal, and we're reading this chart horizontally. So I have a math achievement goal, and it aligns to two initiatives. And the two initiatives are 1B and 1C. So I have a math achievement goal, and it aligns, the two initiatives in the district are good tier 1 instruction and MTSS. And the standards, I'm going to just go back here, not to give everybody a headache, but standard 1, as I said, like 1B is instruction and 1C is assessment. Massachusetts is very clear that every goal must be aligned to a standard and indicator, and it has to be different. Our policy gives a level of freedom to the school committee member to really like pick a different indicator. I honestly, we've been talking about what we want to focus on for a long time. Like we've been talking about all of this. So I feel like the school committee has been weighing in, maybe not necessarily like, Linda, this is your goal, but if this is a district goal, it becomes Linda's goal. It says that the school committee will provide feedback on the goals as aligned to indicators.
Okay.
Yeah. It is, I think it is well, like it makes sense. So in this case, as I said, my first goal is math achievement. And then sources of evidence to see that would be, of course, assessments, knowing that our teachers are working together collaboratively, and seeing walkthrough evidence where we see actual teaching in classrooms and collecting that evidence. For literacy improvement, we would know it's aligned to an initiative of instruction and our teacher professional learning. And we would see the evidence in walkthroughs, curriculum, and survey works, direct feedback from hearing from the students' voices, the parents' voices, the teachers' voices. This is a little different. I just want to call out, this is aligned to standard 4, literacy improvement. So if we go up to standard 4, don't forget, standard 4 is about culture. So we're measuring, this is pushing the literacy work through the lens of culture, versus number 1 is pushing the math achievement through the lens of more instructional perspective. Then the third goal I have is MTSS implementation, which we talked about earlier, MTSS. And that is the initiative is aligned to student supports and looking at stronger data systems. And we would see evidence through our screening data being iReady and STAR. Also literacy plans, math plans, behavior plans, which we've done a heavy amount of work on and we continue to. And then also our MTSS data, how many students are receiving interventions? Are we seeing them grow? The last goal is communication and engagement. And then that is aligned to the initiatives of communication and partnerships. And as an example of that would be an expectation that Linda would have our monthly updates. They would be shared with the community. We would also see feedback from our parents and our students where communication is being improved. So that would be a source of evidence. So this is, I gave you the high level. I do have the details. So for example, the specifics of the goal. And then here is what we're looking to happen. So this is goal 1. And remember, each goal is aligned to 2 indicators. So this is this goal. I'm going to show you this page and this page, right? They're both goal 1. So they're both the same, talking about math assessment at the state level. And they're both going to have the same, they're going to improve math achievement for all students by strengthening Tier 1 math instruction and implementing consistent data-informed MTSS. This one really is looking at an evidence. This is showing you the kinds of evidence that I'd be reporting out on monthly, not every month. And then this is the standard and the indicator, and same goal, but this one's aligned to assessment. And so this is clearly digging more into assessment results, where we would be looking at this more through an assessment lens. And so there's, again, 4 goals, and they each are broken out by the 2 indicators. So I wasn't going to go through, and they're here. It's available. Just walk through the structure of it, how this is set up, the areas, and how this is being measured. So for example, the literacy is not necessarily saying every child's we're gonna see an increase, but we're gonna take a look at this from educator ratings around their feedback for their professional learning as it aligns to literacy. So a little bit of a different way to measure, but a very important one. And then the third goal is again around MTSS and how we're working on literacy plans, math plans, our screening data. And this is again taking a look at our learning environment, and then also measuring our information, our data management and use of those systems. And again, fourth is grounded in survey works, feedback from families and staff, and seeing communication and engagement increase. And that would be done hopefully throughout the year of monthly community updates, my reports to you all, improvements on our website, also making sure our calendar work is getting stakeholder feedback. Another set of evidence are working on our strategic planning. We have now a stage 1, stage 2 planning to work on in terms of our architectural feedback, family and staff surveys, utilizing advisory committees, and any form of like parent meetings, community forums. So that's kind of an oversight of what I think the process is, how I interpret it, how I leaned into the Massachusetts model. The foundation was there to do that. I hope that's okay. And then what it looks like at a high level. And then what areas, like I envision this, and I kind of envision a green, a yellow, or a red light on the things that were popping up for certain times of the year. So for example, when we're looking at MTSS, we know fall, so a September, then we know like a January, and then we know a June are critical times for MTSS because we're taking a look at how our students are growing. So those would be report out times for that MTSS implementation goal.
We did align everything. We thought we aligned everything as much with Massachusetts as possible, because why reinvent the wheel? Because they had really done a fabulous job. And there are really great videos on their website to understand what Massachusetts did to get this all happening. But that's why we adopted this process. And yes, I think you nailed it. I think I told you that. It's like, yep, you mastered it for sure. No surprise there. I have a question for you, and I don't know if it when you talk about just one, you talk about the implementation of MTSS. Where are we in the process of full implementation? Are we fully implementing it right now?
MTSS is definitely a journey, and we're not, so we have a little bit more work to do on our MTSS. So in terms of, we always can improve our Tier 1 instruction. We know that curriculum. There's struggles, I'll say specifically with ELA. No one's fault. This curriculum, high quality instructional materials that we use are challenging in every district, not just here. So we need to kind of refine that. Then when I think it's the 3 tiers, right? So tier 2, we talked earlier about strengthening that work. We're looking at all of our buildings are looking at strengthening that intervention at the classroom level. Yes, you can hire 1 million reading specialists, but it is, how are we providing the additional time and support for students? But it may not always need to be by a reading specialist or a math specialist. So how can we leverage our paraprofessionals in small groups to provide added time? That's a tier 2, and that is a significant lift this school year for us that we're working on. And that happens not just with people and work, but also with our scheduling. So the elementary schools have been working all summer to make sure that they all have a win block embedded, that we can kind of have an all hands on deck multiple times a week, that we can all help students. Maybe that day in class I struggled. I may not need this long, huge reading specialist meeting with me once a week, but I might just a little added time and support in a group with 4 other students around comprehension, and that can help me to grow. So that tier 2 is a big lift for us this year. We're working on our literacy plans, math plans, and behavior plans. Right now, we have literacy plans done in a Google Doc. We're working to put them in Power School. We're also adding math plans and behavior plans. And a behavior plan can be so for example, a child struggles with attendance. It doesn't mean like you're misbehaving. It just means how can we do check-in, check-outs with students to help them with strategies around things that are less academic and more about helping them to be empowered in social emotional aspects. So that is another big bucket. So if I think, and then the other is our screening data, which we shared, we need a little bit of work on K-5. If you don't have the scale, it's hard to really identify if you're overweight. And we needed a stronger scale for that K-5 work. And so I feel like that's a little bit of a heavy lift, but it's a powerful one. And already watching how quickly it took off during Spark gives me a little bit of comfort. And so that's another. So it would be tier 2, knowing that we're working on those intervention blocks, knowing that our literacy plan, math plan, behavior plans are not just sitting in like a Google Doc, but are sitting in Power School, so they're passed off. I taught 2nd grade. I write the plan. The 3rd grade teacher should see it. It shouldn't be like sitting in a Google Doc. They have to, who did Johnny go to for 3rd grade? Right. So we're that piece. And then lastly, making sure that screening data. So if I think that row, where am I strengthening? That's why it says screening, the plans, and then the MTSS data.
And more, I also noticed that you use growth goals,
Yeah.
which we've talked about, and I think that is a good direction to go in. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about growth goals.
Yeah. Sometimes we say as opposed to we want to see 70% of our students at proficiency. I'm not saying that's not important. But you can get to proficiency by focusing on growth. So if we did talk about it at PAC with the parents, the monthly meeting with the parents about the power of growth goals. I've had some years in my career that everybody focused on growth. Some people just purely lean into proficiency. I've seen the Department of Ed lead sometimes where it's proficiency. That's but I always feel like at the table, the anxiety reduces when we say we're just going to talk about growth and not about it is an all or nothing kind of, you either are mastered it or you failed it. It's kind of that feeling where we're and iReady really supports that. And when we're in this tool, it has what's called typical growth and it has stretch growth. So we can really work with students. It doesn't mean maybe they're not at grade level yet, but they know that they're growing and they can be excited about that. So that is an area that makes sense to me. And it usually feels like we can get more engagement and more folks at the table to talk about it. I hope.
It's great. My only question is, Linda, is there anything in the format are we missing something? You've done a lot of goal. Is there anything? So I think I don't think anybody could object to your goals, your this, your the growth that all about. But is there? It's a lot as far as just following the A's to the B's to the C's to like. I don't know if there's a way, and it doesn't have to be an answer tonight. I want to make sure that we're not missing anything with the assessment that with the format that we're using and our
So maybe as she goes through it this year, can make a recommendation like, it would be more powerful for you if we did it a different way. Is that what you're asking, Colleen?
to rip apart. There's a lot of time and work, but and I know you did a lot of.
Well,
But I don't-
Massachusetts did the work. We just copied it.
We gotta get to the basics of what needs to happen, and it's clear that it's there. Is there an easier way to get there? And I don't want that answer now, but looking at it moving forward, I think would be a place to just kind of.
To make sure this isn't busy work.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, no,
No.
I'm not, I don't have time.
No, that, well, I don't think it's.
Yeah.
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 Getting to the
Yeah,
meat of the matter, it's very clear that the way they're structuring this and it's about, but it's more about is there an easier way to get to that result without the A to the B to the C?
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty, I'll just like, that it's a pretty thoughtful, these buckets, right? Like, I guess it just, at a simple level, like if we think I'm aligned to all these buckets. If we don't think if we're missing a bucket here, then we're missing the bucket in alignment. It doesn't mean though Linda's not doing that. It doesn't mean like Rob's not doing it or we're all not, we're probably, this just pulls out like what's really critical and important areas and says, and I just took what we're already doing, quite honestly, and what I'd already be reporting on with you. And you probably heard the same things in my update that you've been hearing them that you see in these goals. And if my goals don't match what I'm saying every month, then there's a problem, right? And so hopefully now it's just like how do we show the growth? Because it's not my growth, it's our growth. I don't feel a pressure. Yeah, exactly.
It's two category buckets, right? Like that's, I get that those are very general buckets and they would be, but it's
This,
something to think about moving forward, I think, right?
and like again, and Colleen like always teases me a little bit about like my dissertation. But this is leaning into research. I feel confident about that, right? We know like very simply, simple three, like feedback. We know teachers working together collectively, professional learning, and then we also know intervention. Like if we're doing those three things well, we should see rock star success across our district, and those. So if I was coming in and I was external and I was saying like, what are your buckets that I should see those things happening some way, shape or form. So now it's like, all right, we've identified that that's a focus area. Now, how do we monitor and report out on them throughout the year? So I feel okay, but you have to start somewhere.
Sure. If there's no more questions from school committee, any questions from the community about the superintendent goals? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent goals for the school year 2026-2027?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Linda, for that. I believe the coach consultant contract template never made it into the packet, correct? So we will table that until.
Yes, we'd like to do that next time. We're not done working with legal.
That's fine. And the next is a vote to repeal the job description for the director of operations. Do I have a motion for that? And then we can entertain a discussion?
So moved.
Any discussion? So I know in the packet, Linda put in the old job description and the new, and then a job description that she put in. So in order to approve the new job description, we have to get rid of the old one, so to speak. And there was a lot of cross references. And when I asked Linda, like, I believe you're writing a lot of new job description. I can't imagine how much time you're putting into it, but Linda's putting together a great file with help from many people of job descriptions, and this is just another example. Does anyone have any questions about repealing the job description before we approve the rewritten one? No. Do I have a motion to repeal the job description for Director of Operations?
So moved. So we already have a
Yeah.
motion.
Oh, where it is, sorry.
Just need a vote.
I lost my cadence. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not gonna change my cadence. Yeah, and do I have a motion to approve the job for Director of Facilities, which is de facto the new description?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the community?
Brendan Machowski, 294 Quake Lane. Just a quick question, because I know that the previous director of operations also oversaw the technology department and the busing. Are either of those, like, is that getting put on to current staff members in those departments, or?
The way, thank you, very good question. So we currently have a data manager who has been supporting us as Director of Technology. We continue to analyze that with him for what that future would look like. And the transportation is currently very shared amongst the staff. It is currently partially with Barry, but then part of it also sits with with Rob. If you just heard like the work with the transportation in terms of the partnership that we have with Zoom and rolling out that work. So what I would like is for in the future for that to move over to our to Rob's office. We're not exactly sure how, but and some level of it we'll go through the different aspects. It is, it does have tentacles. It connects into communication. We have a new vendor that we're working with. So would like to see how do we leverage and work with them in terms of like communication. They use a lot more technology, but in terms of right now, I would like to take that out of Director of Facilities is a very heavy loaded position. And transportation, it just takes like one small aspect to pull you off of what your focus is for Director of Facilities. So moving forward, I would like to pull that off.
So Brendan, I just wanted to, you probably remember, so in all of my time here, the director of facilities was never the director of technology. So it just happened to be that we were in need, that one of our previous director of facilities also held a certain certification, and we were in a time of need, and he had that. So it's, I don't know what your experience are in other districts here. It has never been, it was kind of a one-off, and it was not part of that other person's job description. It was really stipend or whatever it was, increased compensation for taking on additional work. That makes sense? Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve policy 8,000? Student admission.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion on that? Do you want to highlight
Yeah.
just
This is an existing policy that I'm asking that we update. This policy is the policy that kind of steps us through the requirements for new students registering here. The one specific area I'm asking that we look at, so Rhode Island general law says that a student that must turn 5 by September 1. And some level of that can be considered by the superintendent, basically. So it's not a hard September 1. So I would like to have the policy align with what the law does say, where right now it just says period, the end, September 1.
Yes, regardless.
And I understand, and honestly, I've been, in central office for 20 years. I have never had a case where we have had a child not follow that chronological piece. Never. But I would just like the ability to look at a child who maybe has a birthday on, for example, September 2nd. Like it just feels like for them to wait and then take a look at things like iReady data to have them look at their screening data to see where they fall. It is not, I do not expect that to happen. Maybe one time in my career, one time more, but it's very hard right now. And I would just like this policy to reflect what the law allows in other places.
Usually, because I was on the policy committee, when we have a policy, this is an old policy, it said revised, and I don't even know if it says when it was revised.
Yeah,
But it-
2021.
It's old. Well, it says approval date
It looks like it was typed.
2010, and it says revised without a date. In any case, it usually goes to policy who brings to the school committee a draft of the first one. We approve the first, and then it goes back to
This
second.
is it.
So,
This is the,
so we haven't even got first.
this would be considered the first.
This is a revise. So when we're revising a policy, it only comes to the school committee once. It's a new policy that comes
Oh,
twice.
gotcha.
I think hasn't been our practice. I don't
No,
think.
hasn't been.
I'm just,
We've always have it too.
whatever.
I did work with legal on it.
We have
All of it twice.
it's very uncommon for us to have new policy. Most of our policies that we've worked on are rewritten policies, and there's usually a first reading and a second.
Right,
We
that's
could
how
do
we've been
first
doing
reading.
it.
Does it?
I didn't
set the
see a
timing?
date for a first reading on the last time it was revised. It only had one date though.
It
Just
says it was approved.
Updated and then it was revised.
In the process of it being approved, the first,
It doesn't give two dates like a first reading and a second reading last time it was revised. So it didn't trigger anything. That's all.
understood.
I could be losing my mind at this time of night, but I could swear that I've always had a first, because
We've always had a first and a second.
I've never seen a first and a second for a
A
revised.
revised. That's how we've been doing policies.
yeah,
Yeah, am I right? Am I wrong? That's how we've been doing up.
again, we can.
I've been on policy for 3 years. It's been like that.
I mean, it's not stated, but it could be a first reading.
Yeah.
We're just saying it's for the first read. I mean, I don't want to hold anything up or do anything.
Because there's other things on here I questioned when I looked at it. I was like, why is that like that?
Oh, the old one?
Yes.
Did you read the new one? The revised one?
Well, I'm looking at what's in the packet and this is what I'm looking,
Is it
it's
revised?
signed by Mary Lou.
There's a red line version.
That's in there as well.
Okay, so maybe I'm missing that then,
I think
because I
you
kept
are.
saying it's not in. I don't have it. Doesn't make sense. It must be sent, but it's not.
There's a red line version in there.
I printed it out. It's I don't know. I in a our base the taxes for the public, it doesn't go out at the like.
Yeah, I must have the public one.
How did Dave get it?
I think.
Oh, clerk base does the uploads.
Yeah.
We don't.
It's in your packet.
It's in my packet.
If it's not, I'm gonna go on quick, although my. It's gonna die.
Isn't that convenient?
I know you
Patty?
print everything out, but I'm looking at it right here. It wasn't.
So we have two questions. We want to have confirmed that whenever we update a policy that it has two readings.
We don't have to, I mean, we've just, it's that, I'm just gonna go with it. Like, I'm not trying to be difficult in all of this, and I think we would wanna be, but I'm thinking we've always done that, when there's. It's not usually just awarded to, like Erica can attest, going, when policies go, there's complete overhaul.
Mhm.
So that has been the practice since I've been around, not saying it's the right.
I do think she's
I've
right.
been only doing new ones. Since I've been here, we've been doing
Yeah.
all new policy.
Oh.
Well,
Like
I-
cell phone
policy.
policy.
Well,
We've been
something new,
doing,
because we've done
yeah,
the-
a
Yeah,
lot of
done a
new
new
ones.
one.
we've done new ones with like the cell phones. There's been a few new ones, but no, we've always done it. First read, second read.
So it wasn't.
If we did this as a first reading and the second reading would be next month, does that affect any students that would be following this policy?
So I guess,
So there's currently, I guess, a student that could fall underneath the revised policy for the upcoming school year.
And the state law states what?
The first with the discretion of the superintendent making their,
And you
It's-
did that with
it's-
legal.
yes.
All it is following the law.
I know, I would say, I would think we would be following the law anyways and not a policy we wrote in 2010.
so it just happens to be that, like you just said, in all of, I misunderstood it first, so I was thinking without looking at the policy in front of me right now, and I did, no, I read
Okay.
that over, I wasn't paying really much attention to the age piece of it. Is that you, again, there's gotta be a cutoff somewhere, right? My kid was the kid who was born in 1998, 99. He was that first kid, that first year,
Yeah.
3 years of preschool. I was, oh my God, he's gonna start school, and
Yeah.
he was fine. He didn't start. I remember Christian Stringfellow was a superintendent. He's like, listen, unless he's Doogie Howser, we're not taking, like,
Right.
in the nicest way possible, and he's fine. You know what I mean? He
Yes.
wasn't that, but I was looking at it in a different place where it's hard. If you do for one, you gotta do for another. I was thinking that you wanted the hard line. You don't want the hard line,
She doesn't.
but you also, if
I'll mostly enforce the hard line.
you what?
I will, like, will see the hard line on most days. That,
That-
if not all days, that is the norm. That is better for children to not be, because at the level we can say like academically they're here, but socially, like, do we really want the 16-year-old off to college? It is,
No,
and I understand,
I'm
right?
again, it's the oldest kid,
yeah.
but I'm
And we have full day pre-K, so it's really changed the discussion because it's a different, when you have a full day pre-K too, like we're able to offer parents something very different than because a half day is much different for a working family. So that feels like, and then we can differentiate the pre-K child. So we can differentiate their learning and expose them to some things that push their thinking while they're in pre-K, with the kindergarten teacher literally next door. So and the materials.
saying it correctly that you said in all your years of doing this, you've never really wanted to push that kid forward. But there's a situation right now where you think it's appropriate.
Yes. And there is, at the end, like we have to just dig into who we are too. If what's right, again, with proper data assessment involved, which the suggested policy names and calls out that criteria, like within that analysis, not me alone, with experts at the table, looking at the data, screening. We have an early childhood coordinator who looks at the screening data. Like we're looking at all those with pre-K records, full day pre-K records at the table, and a birthday that's days away from September 1. But the other option, and I think what's been happening, and probably not too often, but people will opt to go to private school and they don't come back. And doesn't feel welcoming to me. So I understand it. I will be making many, many unpopular decisions in most days, but I'm making it because it's a hard line in this cement and it doesn't feel like the right thing for kids.
And now commonly we look at what other school districts are doing. Commonly we look at other school districts to see what they're doing. What are our neighboring schools doing, or is everyone following the law? I mean, I know a friend of mine who's in Connecticut, theirs is cutoff is like October. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah, so I mean, it could be a totally different state is how their state laws are,
Yeah.
but what are the other school systems doing?
most people it's a hard on September 1, but I don't know that they necessarily have it in a policy that says it's a hard on September 1. The superintendent still can look at data, work with the family, work with their experts in the district to make a decision. But we didn't, in my previous district, we were very, very hard with September 1, but we also had the flexibility to look. And honestly, like we were a military district. So you have people coming in and
Mm.
they start in different countries at different, and we didn't
Mm.
make the child repeat kindergarten. Like if you
Yeah.
came in and you were at first grade, you were in first grade and we let you go into first grade because you were coming from another country, even though your age was different. Like it just starts to get a little weird around that. So I think it is just always looking at what is right about for the child.
So I think in terms of approving this policy tonight, we have one of two choices. We can either consider this a first read and right now schedule a special meeting to do a second reading if we feel comfortable with that, or just pass this right now as a revised vote. So Dave thinks that we could vote right now. Anyone,
But I,
any other?
yeah, I have more discussion. So because I didn't have a copy of this red one and I have no idea why everybody can look, for some reason mine is only the old one. I don't know, I'm special. In any case, the question I was concerned about, and maybe you can address this, maybe I'm reading it wrong, was the continuing enrollment. So a student who is about to begin senior year or senior high school and whose parents, legal guardian, whom the student may be living with from Scituate, may complete their senior year. The student must either live in Scituate and or be able to attend school regularly. What is that definition?
That existed in the previous policy. So I didn't write that. My Linda definition interpretation.
Why not? tweak it?
My thought was around attendance. So it is Rhode Island law that your parents move away senior year, you can stay and finish. That's law, and that's the right thing to do again for kids. But then if a child doesn't, if for me regularly feels like around chronic absenteeism. So we know the numbers for chronically absent. And so my head, I think maybe just because of being at Department of Ed, leans into like what that data says. So we know when we're 10%, like we are in flashing red. So 10% of days of our days, like, so if we're 180 days, that's 18 days at like that's a big red flag. So when we're talking about 90 days, 9 days, to me, like regularly is around the chronic absenteeism. That's how I was thinking we meant regularly. Maybe I'm making some assumptions.
I do, the only thing I wouldn't want anyone in the community misreading this. They're able to attend regularly. So, okay, I'm going to come in once a month. That's about all I can do. That's regular. So it's a definition that's very vague. I would prefer to see it a little bit
Sure.
tweaked a little different, or something that maybe the superintendent has ability to judge that. But I would hate, I would hate, I would,
Maybe a part of that is the parents moved to Florida.
right.
Like the kid can't say I'm going to Scituate and not be in Scituate schools.
Right, well, and
Like,
he has to live
right,
in
it's supposed to
Scituate or
be-
be able to attend. So if he went with his
Yeah.
parents, he wouldn't be able to. Or she. Is it possible? I don't know, John left. Can we approve part of this? Or it has to be completely approved for revision with the approval for the enrollment following the state law, which we should be doing anyways.
I'm not I don't know,
I
but
think
it does, but my notes, like I would bring it back around the regularly attending anyways. It feels like it needs to come back for an update again.
Yeah.
So that we can clarify that. I think that's a fair, something like, why would you want to get mixed up in that vagueness and why not clearly?
Can we approve
define
it
it.
and then do a second read and, not a second read, I'm sorry. We can approve this policy. I'm not telling everybody what to do. It's my thought. Can we approve this policy as written? And then it can go back to the policy committee in November, December to question somebody's moving out. I don't know, to revise it again. So we're not losing a student because it's a deadline.
I'm not sure how often that happens, but I hear you and I can't imagine why we can't come back and
Yeah,
for another.
and not
revision of
necessarily,
that.
yeah, just do another revision somewhere. So
Because there
this
is a
moves on
student that's involved in this.
versus having a
vote.
special meeting.
So you're not in vote for a special meeting? I
No.
saw Colleen roll her eyes.
No, I was.
I'm not in favor of the special meeting. It is just a tweak. I see. You're right. You have to rewrite something.
Pass this policy tonight and we speak with legal counsel and he says that in order to enact this policy, we need to have a second read before the start of school. We have a special meeting to,
Yes.
I mean, I'm about that. I don't want that to
Thank you.
prohibit that from happening. Do I want to come again if I don't have to? Absolutely not. I'll say it on the camera. I don't think anybody does. You know what I mean? But we want to do it the right way too, right? Like that's, and it's, my head's not processing, but I'm positive we've done, and maybe we weren't doing the right thing. And if we don't have to do it, I don't want to do it. I get it with the new policy. You want.
Do you want me to call John?
Need that.
I say we just pass it as it is and then we'll.
No
know
matter
that-
what, it'll give you the first read
Yes,
at
yes.
minimum, and if we're okay, then we know we're okay, and if not, we'll back for the second.
I love how law prevents us from moving forward so often.
Yeah, no, I have to, and it's just, my only concern, and I'm gonna, I feel as though if Linda wants us to approve this, we're gonna approve it. My only concern is I think it puts more, and this is just my personal opinion, Linda, I think it puts more of a strain on you. I understand where you're coming from, but with the September, and again, that's why you're the superintendent, and that's why state law allows, and I'll do it. But I also think, okay, so he's September 5th, but he's October 22nd, but well, my son tested higher on the, that's my concern, and it's really not, it's at your level, you're gonna be the one, or the superintendent.
You're gonna be the bad guy.
But if
I
law
already
allows for that to be, then I think we should be following the law. And who knows if it says may, shall, whatever, but it allows it, we should follow the law. We actually should follow, no.
So I have a motion, I have a motion in a second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I'll check with John about that. Are there any announcements? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?